Good morning, everyone. This is Naveen from Virtusa Campus Recruitment Team. First of all, I hope that you are all well and safe. We have arrived to the final session of the employability series. Before we go into the introduction part, Dr. Ashwin, thank you so much for being with us and helping the students over the past 4 months with different topics from the employability series. And today we have the final session, learning skills. It's great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker, Dr. Ashwin, who's going to talk to us thoroughly about the aspects of learning skills. Dr. Ashwin is an impactful leader and a veteran of IT skill set with more than 24 years of experience. He has worked in various domains such as retail, banking, education, travel, logistics, etc. He has worked with top tier companies. Other than Virtusa, he has been with InfoView, Wipro, and TCS. He likes interacting with freshers and he likes mentoring them. This employability series is an example of how he has put in his effort to make sure that students across the country focus on developing their skills. Dr. Ashwin, over to you.
Thanks, Naveen. Thanks, Krithi. And first of all, thanks for the opportunity given by Krithi and his team for me to make this my try to make an impact to people who have joined in and people who are going to see this in the recorded sessions also. Okay, so I will get on. Thanks for the introduction. So I will get on to the slide and let me know if you are able to. The slide is changing, Naveen and.
Yes, Dr. Ashwin, it's changing.
Okay, thank you, Naveen. First of all, thanks for people who have joined, and hope this 1 hour of session is useful to you and to me, and deepest gratitude for you. This is where I always open my session. Dream is not what you see in sleep. Dream is something which doesn't let you sleep. Each one of us should have something that keeps us going. This is one slogan which is keeps me going. That when if I dream of something, it is not that I sleep on it. It is just that I doesn't let me sleep. I do something, some actions. It may be wrong, right, but I will take action towards it. So that's my slogan. I would humbly request each one of you to have one slogan, and the slogan can change time to time, but you should have one at least to keep you going. Okay, and again, thanks to all of you for joining. And this is where the entire session starts. This is the theme of the entire employability series, and this is the after the first session which I had rolled it out for skill sets of the future. We started this employability series, which was an 8-week series, and the entire theme is based on this certification versus qualification. You all are, most of you are faculty or team members or people who have joined or going to join a company. You will get certified with your job, with your degree. How qualified are you makes a real difference. And once you join the company, how can you keep yourself qualified? Because with the technology changing, with things changing, with now the pandemic has brought its own challenges, how do you keep yourself qualified? And this is not one versus the other. It is actually how do you complement the other one? Because we find in the industry, people are not qualified when they come in, or after they come in, they don't keep themselves qualified. So if you look at it, right, let me touch upon a sensitive topic. If you look at it, you could have heard about job losses, this pandemic or before pandemic and all. But if you think about it, 10% people lose job, 15% people lose job. Why can't you focus on the 85% of people who have not lost their jobs? They had something which the 15% did not have, and that is nothing but job qualification. For that company, for that job, they were not qualified. Okay, so please concentrate on getting yourself qualified in whatever you do. So that's where, and these are the 8 aspects. I started with the technology focus, went on to the management skills, went on to communication, then positive intention, emotional intelligence, soft skills, which is your attitude and stuff like that, and personal USP, your unique selling point personally. And this week is learning. So what we will do is the structure for today is I will spend about 10 minutes giving a very brief overview on each of the other 7 topics and then get deep into learning skills. Okay, so stay with me, and anyone wants to have deeper insights into those 7 sessions, you can go to the previous week's this The links are all shared in social media, or if you can contact Naveen or Kriti or myself, we will give you those links. So I'm going to, the structure is first few minutes, I will go through the other 7 sessions at very high level and then get into learning skills. So we started with this technology skills. And the most important part of it is coding. If you want, and this is specifically for IT, the other aspects can be non-IT, but this particular slide is for IT. If you want to get into IT, you need to know coding. It is an utmost importance that you understand what coding is. It's an art by itself. You need to spend time to develop that art, and it's just by practice. No course can give you it. Is you have to attend a course and then keep practicing. 2 languages minimum, like Java, Python, Node.js, choose yours, .NET, whatever. You need to know at least 2 deep languages. You need to know the technology fundamentals. What is meant by what is meant by network, what is meant by server, what is meant by front end, all the technology fundamentals you have to know. Then you need to know, you have to get exposed to full stack engineering. When I say full stack, front end, back end, the middle layer, what it contains, everything. Then getting exposed to AI/ML is an added advantage. Data and cloud is a differentiator. And then engineering tools. What are the tools that you're exposed to? So if these is the technology skills which you need to focus on. Then we went on to coding as an art. How much language is important, how logical thinking comes into play, how detailed you have to get into. It's a scientific method. It does not come out of magic or chance. It is come due to a scientific proven method. How you just don't cut and paste code from the internet. You write your own code. That's self-reliance. Then we went into management, and a lot of people had questions on why management for a fresher. Actually, management is for everybody in the organization. It is self-management. The management starts with self. How well you can manage your time. How well you can say how much time this would take. How can you say stick to the timelines? How can you understand a requirement? All this is part of management skills. We went deep into it. We went how planning and integration, requirements understanding, time management, how important it is for comply to security rules, integrity rules, reporting, big picture. That's a very important story. How do you understand what are you part of? Many people lag in this. If you are working for a banking project, people think it's a banking project alone. It is a banking project, but then it actually touches people's lives. Imagine you don't get salary. Imagine 10,000 people don't get salary for them. So any code that you write, you need to know what is the big picture. The big picture will give you and purpose to write correct code. Then ability to work in teams, all that we went through. Then we also talked about how competence, commitment, and connection to work leads to productivity. You have to be competent, you have to be committed, and then you have to be connected to work. Then we went into the third session was all about communication. And if you look at communication, the first topic itself is listening. And it should be an eye opener for any people. Communication means first step is listening. You have to develop your listening skills, only then you can communicate. So we went deep into that. What is communication, what is not. English is just a language, not a communication. And how important is non-verbal communication. If you look at it, 65% is non-verbal. How do you talk, how do you see, how do you listen, all is non-verbal communication. We went deep into it. Then this is an important skill. How strong should be your yes, and also how strong should be your no. And if you keep saying no, nobody will come to you. If you keep saying yes, you can never commit. You can never stick to your commitments. So you should know when to say yes and when to say no. And when you say no, you should have a reason for it. When you say yes, it has to be backed up with commitment. Then we went to the fourth session on positive intent, positivity about yourself and positivity about the situation and others. A lot of people, when they join company, they come with an intention or when thought that the HR or the management wants me to lose a job. Nobody wants you to lose a job. We want you to develop the skills so that you can stay on to the job, be productive. So that's where how you take a situation, how do you positively have an intention on others and the situation makes a difference. We went deep into it. A lot of people used to come and tell me, I don't want to be in a support project. I don't want to be in a mundane project. The don't will never work. You have to start saying what you want. I want to be in a creative project. I want to be in an innovative project. Then you can make any project innovative. So that's the beauty of it. So how you start. This is about talking about Indra Nui's talk. But how do you approach a problem with positive intent? Coming into a situation, you think everybody is positive about it, and then only you make a difference. You come into a situation where you think everybody has a negative intent, then you will never be able to contribute. We went on to this, what it takes, what it gives, the positive intent on others, better relationships, better opportunities, strong bond. Then we actually went into emotional intelligence, and this is part of my thesis. I completed my thesis from Chitkara University, which is how does emotional intelligence play a transitory role between employability skills and employer satisfaction. How is your EQ, your emotional intelligence quotient, determines your employability skills so that the employer gets satisfied. And if you look at it, this is not me, this is World Economic Forum. In 2015, they've listed the top 10 skills. And in 2020, they listed the top skills. And if you look at it, a new element has come in. And this is, we can see that in every field of IT or any other industry, emotionally intelligent. How emotionally intelligent are you? How can you handle an escalation? When somebody says, when customer says, this is not right, how do you handle it? Or when customer loses his patient, how do you handle it? When a team member loses his patient, how do you handle it? When a manager loses his patient, how do you handle it? How do you handle negative situation? How do you handle positive situation? The emotional intelligent part is a top skill. Okay. And my research was all about that, how employability skills and employer satisfaction, how is the mediation done by the employer intelligence, emotional intelligence part. And if you split up emotional intelligence, the three aspects of it, right? Employability skills, emotional intelligence, and employer satisfaction. We went into the 4 aspects of emotional intelligence. You have to first know whether you are happy or not. You have to be sensitive on others. How do you regulate your emotion? How do you use your emotion? Whether it is if you are strong, how do you use it for your positive intent to create good for you and also for the others? So we went depth into the emotional intelligence part, and these were the major findings of my study. Emotional intelligence is a significant mediator. We proved it with data. We went through a lot of questionnaires with about more than 1,000 plus participants. And also the findings reveal that use of emotion has a dominating effect. So how much your emotional usage has a dominating effect on the emotional intelligence quotient. And these were some data points. 71% of the employees say that employers say that your EI is more important than your IQ. Then we went into steps of improving your EI. First step is taking responsibility. I did it, and I did it for some reason or not, but I take responsibility. Then practice responding rather than reacting. You don't react to situation, you respond to situation. Then empathizing, putting yourself into the other person's shoe. Then creating a positive environment. This is how you improve your emotional intelligence. It's a very, proven technique. It just needs your time and attention towards it. Then we went into soft skills. A lot of questions came in this in terms of what is a soft skill? A cluster of skills that influence how we interact with one another. And what is the difference between hard skills and soft skills? Work ethics, habits and traits, not learned from books. This is your core skills, your soft and your hard skills, your coding skills or your architecture skills. With your attitude, with your communication, with your this thing becomes your core skills. And we also went into what does an interview look for? What is an interview in the first place? The interview is not to reject you. The interview is for you to select something for which the interviewer has an opening. So there we will, and you can actually drive the interview to what you know. And that comes through practice, that comes through trial and errors. But you have to prepare for it. The first step towards this, you can guide. You need to know what you're good at. You need to know your improvement areas, and that confidence shows on the interview. Then we went into, if you look at hard work, and if you just say the position of the letters in the ABCD, the thing, you will see hard work is 98%. We all know knowledge is 96%. But what is 100%? You can be everything, but if you don't have the attitude, you will not be the person for the company. Or an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur has to have bigger attitude, bigger good attitude than even a team member. Then your attitude determines your altitude in life. How much you grow, ability, motivation, attitude. Ability is how capable are you doing, determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. Then we went to the previous last week's session. Personal USP is it's very close to my heart. I believe in this. This is very simply to be put. If I were to look at any person who joins the company, what is the personal USP? My personal USP has always been, if somebody gives me something, come what may, I will get it done, and I will keep reporting status. I won't tell this person did not do that person. That's my personal USP. And I've achieved whatever I've achieved in 24 years, primarily with this personal USP. So what is your USP? For some people it is creative. Some people it is innovative. Some people it can be what I have. Some people it can be, they are more from a marketing standpoint. Some people can be in terms of debugging. For some people it can be in terms of customer support. You have to know your personal USP. Personal USP can be anything, value of that person, which get noticed by others without any effort. You don't have to put any effort for people to notice it. That is you. And how do you develop what you stand for, what the company needs? That's your personal USP. And we've also went into what do you mean by USP and no USP? Confidence to the team. You give confidence to the team. Then you give certainty to choose you. There is a certainty to choose you. Track record gives you a higher probability. Provides a way to choose you. For the manager, and even if you go into a new manager, your feedback forms and all that help you to get the USP and to choose you. Separates yourself from others. Best of opportunities will come to you if you have an USP. And then we went through very important. It is also you have to keep your USP updated. There are a lot of people who come up and say, I'm very strong in this, but what you are strong, if it is not useful for the company or for the market, it's not valid. You have to keep your USP updated, but never lose your USP. You can update your USP, your existing USP, you should never lose it. There are some set of people, I am hardworking, but I want to be creative. Very good, be creative, but you can't stop being hardworking. It is always a plus. It can't be a minus. So that's the important trick that you have to learn. So this is where we stopped in terms of the previous seven sessions. And today, let's go to another about maybe 15 minutes, and then we'll open up for questions. If there are a lot of questions, we'll keep up with the questions, or if there are no other questions, we'll talk more. So this is in terms of Stephen Covey saying, and if you have not read anything, the best book to read is The 7 Habits. Okay, The 7 Habits to make an essential successful person. The key to success is to dedicate to lifelong learning. The only successful prescription that anybody can give you is develop a learning skill. How can you develop that skill? And it is a habit. How can you learn skills? That is what will make a differentiator. And I can tell you, any industry you join, first of all, what your thought in academics is not entirely, obviously that base is important. What entirely the industry looks at it from a different concept, right? So what you have to do to bridge the gap? Learn. Learn, learn, learn. So that's the only way to success. And once you join, how do you get promoted? Learn. How do you get accolades? Learn. How do you move to your favorite location of on-site, offshore? Learn. How do you go to better roles? Learn. How do you change roles? Learn. So in everything, the learning is an important exercise. Another, what is key? The key is keep educating yourself, and educating is nothing but learning. So, and there is a rule which I'll cover in the end of this thing also. If you don't spend 10% of your time, say you have per month, you have 31 days, then 3 days in that should be, and it need not be continuous 3 days. It is basically those hours. If you can learn, 10% of your time should be into learning, and next 10% of your time should be putting that learning to practice. And because if you don't practice, it will just be theory and it will go away from your brain. So 10% of learning and 10%. So any day, if you are a student, if you are a faculty, if you are a manager, if you are a leader, if you are a CEO, you can be anybody. 10% of time has to be on learning. And learning can be in multiple forms. It is not about attending a class alone. It's about learning from your mobile, what it comes, learning from newspapers, learning from formal sessions, learning, not what to say, learning is different from just reading for a newspaper. You have to learn something. So 10% of time should be on learning and 10% of time should be on putting that learned skills into practice. So Albert Einstein once said, in the midst of every crisis lies a great opportunity. And now that this pandemic, so there is this thing saying, right? In the pandemic, one thing that pandemic has taught us, if you are not able to learn even now, that means you never wanted to learn in the first place. Because there is so much of time to everybody. Because of fundamentally there is no travel, there is no outing, there is nothing. A lot of things got. If you don't learn now, you can't learn anytime. So please concentrate on learning. Learning is the new currency that can help us succeed as a workforce. This is from Udemy's MD, and I liked it. That's why I quoted it. Learning is a new currency that can help us succeed as a workforce. At a time of unprecedented change and heightened concern, the most important job skills will be ability to learn. And I will tell you why. Fundamentally because the technology is changing. We don't want to get new people to do the work. We want the existing people to do the work. But the existing people do not know. So how do you bridge the gap? The bridge the gap is only due to learning. And this is from data, and this is from my study also. During my study, during my PhD, I did this. If you look at this, right, and this is before the pandemic. This is not, this report was done before the pandemic. The report said 9% would be deployed in new jobs that are not existent today. So 100 people, I'm just giving you a reference, 100 people are there, 9% of people will do something which does not exist at all today. 37% of people will be into jobs which are radically different. 54% will be in unchanged. This is before the pandemic. If you do it now, and I'm not a research agent, but I can, from my experience, that 54% would have come down to 25%. 75% of the jobs will be either totally new or will have radical. I am seeing in my workforce. I am seeing it in, for example, if you look at campus hiring team of every, say, look at the campus hiring team of every company. What is the change they have gone through? Initially, campus interviews were always in-house, this thing. It changed online. It changed to tools. Now it is getting into hackathons. Now it is getting into neural hacks. So a lot of things have changed. So, and if the campus team will go only to campus and do it, they won't have a job. So imagine that how radically every department has changed. Look at your banking, how it has changed. When did you last write a check? Maybe now we have started writing because we don't see. When did you last write a check? So very important that you understand that learning is the only thing which is going to be constant. It will change. You have to keep learning for it. And then importance of learning. Let me spend some time on giving you a perspective. Getting access to new opportunities. Because opportunities will come in the latest, because technology is changing on a day-to-day basis, customers are changing, you will get opportunities. For you to get that opportunity, even if you tell them, even if you do not know those skills, if you can give the confidence that you can learn, that's where you get access. If you look at it, right, you must have heard about, when you join a company, you have different appraisal systems. And learning skill is a very important metric for it. And what this is after you getting a job, even while getting a job in your campus interviews, HR or your interviewer, at least when I go to campus interview, look whether the person can learn. What has he learned? What has he learned newly and how has he put into use? So that gets into new opportunity. It definitely helps your self-confidence. It's about sharpening your saw. It gives you the self-confidence. Develops and helps your growth curve. Very important. You want to grow. You don't, when you join as a developer, you want to move as a senior developer, you want to move as a tech lead, you want to move as an architect. It gives you the growth path. Important in achieving your goals, because your goals are set up with not on what you know, what is needed. So what is needed, you have to learn on only and achieve, making you happy. Obviously, because of your winning, you will be happy. Personal development, you have to spend time on developing personal, whether it is physical activities on personal development on health, or it is mental activities that you learn. Very important. Professional development, your technology skills, your communication skills, your leadership skills, your project management skills, your agile skills, everything. Then the next one is leadership qualities. What learning does is, you makes you a leader. If you look at the various, even the cricket leaders, right? If you look at Dhoni, or if you look at Sachin, or look at what they have learned through. And if you have, so little story, how Sachin developed the art of some of the short balls that he wanted to place, right? He never used to play it well, but then he learned that. People can of that caliber have to learn certain skills which they don't know. They have to learn that certain skills which they don't know, and that's where they grow. Learning in the new normal, and this is a good thing which I read from somewhere. If you look at it, right, skilling, and there's a separate slide on skilling, different concepts of skilling: upskilling, reskilling, and cross function. I'll get to that when I touch that slide. Then soft skills: communication, positive attitude, interview skills. Then getting into cognitive skills: decision making, information processing, innovation, and creativity. And technology, I covered this. So if you look at it, right, why cognitive? Because of the digital media, data is going to be thrown out to your face in multiple forms. You have to make decision on it. How can you make decision on it? You have to information process it and then do decision making on it. Cognitive skills. Why soft skills? In the remote world, it's more important how you communicate and positive intent interview, because people don't see you. They see you only remotely. Then technology, obviously, because of the technology landscape change, you have the digital transformation. Everything is digital, full stack, AI/ML. If you look at China, China is an AI/ML. It's already a much developed. We are picking up, and I'm sure we'll come to their level very soon. But definitely, what we have to learn from our competitors is one thing which we have to learn. We have to learn from China how they acquired the technology and putting it used for the people's advantage. Then it comes to the last but not the least, mental well-being. Your work-life integration. It is much more important than ever before. Because when we started this COVID, let me tell you my own instance. When we started this COVID working from home, I always used to work from home a couple of days in a month, or one day at least in a week. I used to work from home before COVID. It used to be nice. But then when COVID started, work from home used to be so very tiresome, because I never knew how to draw a line between my personal life and work life. And also, everybody was working from home. When I used to work from home from pre-COVID reason, only I was working from home. A lot of people were working from office, so a lot of things got done. But everybody was working from home. It's a different ballgame. So I learned it a bit. First 2 months was absolute chaos. Work-life balance. School. My daughter could not go to school, so she was at home. She has to go through. She had to be kept busy. Wife could not go out. We could not see much social friends. So it is a work-life integration that we learned. It was a chaos, but we learned. And how do we integrate it? Social connect. Emotional and physical well-being. What I've learned through this pandemic is how emotionally and physically you are fit makes you a stronger person. So these are the learning post-COVID. If you look at what are the 5 areas which you need to focus on the post-COVID, is skilling, soft skills, cognitive, technology, and mental well-being. And this is another, I took it from internet. It's a nice slide. What is the I see and I forget, I hear and I remember, I do and I understand, Confucius. Look at what they say. If you read, just read 10% of what you will remember after 2 weeks. And hearing words, somebody speaking and you're hearing 20%. You're seeing 30%. watching a movie, working at an exhibit, watching a demonstration, 50% of what you hear and see. Participating, talking, giving a talk, you will learn 70%. Doing the real thing, working it with a real experience, 90% of what you say and do. So this there is an the top 4 is passive learning, the next 4 is active learning. And you can have any gadgets to learn, any gadgets to worry about, the newer technologies, but this doesn't change, guys. The passive learning is one form of learning. Active learning is one form of learning. Passive is not bad. It has to be a combination of passive and active. Everything cannot be active. But then if there is no active learning and there is only passive learning, you are never going to learn. So that's the beauty of learning. You have to practice it. This how corporates have evolved. This is again not my slide taken from the internet. If you look at to the e-learning blended, you had a little bit of e-learning, more of blended there was an e-learning platform, self-study online. Then it went to talent management. We had a talent management team. Then there was continuous learning. Even we learned during the project. Then 2018, there came the digital learning, where you had the video-based learning, YouTube-based learning, then micro learning and all that. Then now it's all about learning with the flow. You need to join courses which has where the lab is an integral part of the exercise. You need to join, or if there is you don't join a course, you want to do it on your own, that's also fine. But you need to have the environment where you can learn as in the flow. That's where we are. How corporate training has evolved. When I joined 24 years, 25 years back in TCS, but I was joined as a trainer. 6 months we were given classroom training, simple as that, and it was plain vanilla classroom, and I was learning COBOL. 6 months that worked during that time. I'm sure now that won't work. You need to have real time. Even if there are sessions, it can be a couple of hours, more of practice, more of lab, real time. Any point of time, you should have mobile access to it. You should have an tab access to it. You should be able to ask questions. You should be able to contribute in a social forum, and you can learn from other people, learn from a community. So these things have evolved. Learning has evolved, training has evolved. And these are the various stages in learning. And if you look at it, you start off with unconsciously incompetent. You are unaware of the skills. You lack the proficiency, obviously, because you are unaware. Imagine swimming. I'm just taking swimming. You are unaware of the skills. You lack the proficiency also. Then you are consciously incompetent. Basically, you are aware of the skill. You know what to do. You know when you put in water, you have to breathe like this. You have to shake your hands like this, legs like this. You are consciously incompetent. Then you are consciously competent. You are able to use but with only effort. You have to keep reminding yourself, oh, this is way it is. But with only effort, you will be able to use the skill with only an effort. Then you become unconsciously competent, like this. For example, if you're a great swimmer, once you start swimming, you don't need people to remind you that you have to do like this, you have to do like this. It's a dance by itself, right? It's even cycling. You can build it to any skill. These are the 4 stages. You become unconsciously incompetent, then you become consciously incompetent, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence. That's where it becomes an automatic factor. And that's where you learn a skill. And this is no different in learning a Java or a .NET or a Pega or a microservices or a full stack. You are not aware first. You will be aware first. Then you will put an effort, and then it will become unconsciously competent. So don't look at IT as any other big thing or a small thing. It is like any other skill that you have to develop. So that is where this, if you understand the concept of learning, it gives the confidence. For example, right, today, say I was talking to one of our top leaders in our company. He must be nearly 60 years, around 60 years. And I was talking to him, and I was actually saw his WhatsApp profile picture, and it had it was as if he was driving a flight, right? He was in a flight, and I was talking to him, what it is it just a GIF or just a background? No, He actually has applied for a pilot license, a private pilot license, and he's taking classes for it, a simulation sessions. That's where there has to be an intent and there has to be an action taken towards taking something. It was a great, when you see these stories, you actually want to do it. And when you do it, you inspire other people to do it. And that inspiration makes you to do more. So it's a very complicated circle, but then you will learn it. But most importantly, I would say, you spend some time to learn. That one, when I started off with this, that 10% of effort, you just have to put yourself to learn. You can start 10% of your day with after your sleep or this thing. If you have 10 hours, 1 hour should be spent on learning anything. Another 1 hour should be spent on putting that what you have learned into practice. That's the trick to be a good learner. And this is then driving into the next slide. Good learner qualities. 80-20. When you want to learn something, there will be aspects of it which will cover 80% of it. You learn just couple of things, and key things, not fringe things, key things. For example, when you learn driving, right? What's the most important thing? Your steering control and your brake and gear. Those are most important. Steering control. You learn that 80% of the skills is covered. 80% of what is required is covered. So concentrate on doing that. Talk to guides, coaches, to get to know what is that 20% which will give you that 80% benefit. Then question it. Questioning. This was not part of our generation where we ask a lot of questions during school and college. But if I see my daughter who's in 9th standard, the amount of questions I have never asked. But I can tell you, the geography or the history or the science that she is learning is much more deeper because of the questioning part. I never questioned, and let me not put a blame on the environment. I never questioned, but when in office I always question. If you know me, I will always question things, and that's where I learn. Following a routine, habits are the key. Very important. Learning has to be a habit. Only then it will become a part of your life. Then sticking to a learning style. There are people who are visual learners, auditory learners, reading learners. Can I stick hands-on? Stick to your style. You should use everything, but when the key stuff comes, right, you should know which is your most important style. And then patience and persistence. Nothing comes overnight. I just realized even American elections results don't come overnight, correct? So nothing comes overnight. You definitely need to have that patience and persistence. Concept learning. Spend your time to understand. And I did this mistake when I want to learn something in IT. I will just go directly into the syntax of it, understand of it, and all that. But then I never understood this stuff. Spend that time because concepts are difficult to learn. Let's understand. It's difficult to learn, but then once you understand, it becomes easy. Improvement of memory. All the memory techniques, because you have to remember, you have to know. Don't depend on Google for anything. Google is good. You don't have to know the thing, but there has to be memory which will come into picture. Then leading abilities. How to lead. Start leading small activities in your family. Start leading small events in your family. It gives a lot of learning. Even a small function, even a birthday party, then getting into math. That leading, right? Leading is a habit by itself. So start leading at home, then you will start leading at office also. So this is a good learner qualities which I wanted to cover. I thought it's a good one. I told you I'll cover this aspect, and it's very important. There are 3 types of skilling once you get into, and this is not IT, it can be used for other things also, but very specifically to IT. Upskilling means you know something, you are adding something to your skill repository. You know Java, you are adding Angular to it, an adjacent skill. That's upskilling. Reskilling is you know core Java, or you do not know Java 8, you know the other versions of Java you're trying to learn, or you know one framework, you're adding another framework. That's called reskilling. You reskill it to the latest technology, latest of it. Then you change your base skill itself. Basically, you're a .NET or you're a Java, you go to .NET, you're a Pega, you go to Java. So these are the three nuances of skilling. You either upskill, either reskill, or you cross skill. So you understand these terminology, and people use it in multiple ways, but this is how I would like to say, and this is a very an industry accepted terminology. When you add adjacent thinking, it means upskilling. When you want to reskill yourself to make yourself relevant, that's reskilling. And then cross skilling. You have to, and it is not one works for everything. Different scenarios. For example, you want to learn. You are a Java. You are a back-end guy. Wants to learn front-end Angular JS. Upskilling is your technology. Upskilling is your way. You are into Java. You want to add frameworks to it. You have to reskill. You are in testing, you want to move to Java, you are in Java, you want to move to automation. You change your base skill. Changing your base skill doesn't mean you forget your base skill. You still remember your base skill. So for example, I went through all these in different parts of my career. When I was COBOL, I moved to Java, then that was cross skilling, right? When in Java, I learned, first I moved to C++, I learned Java and other things, then I reskilled myself. And then there was upskilling also, when I learned Angular and other concepts, right? So this is the different skilling types. This is an older slide which I covered in the technology, and I thought this would be very useful if you want to use the learning curve to get into IT. This is how it is. Either you are a first year, second year, third year, final year student, and if you're a non-IT, it works for across. Fundamentals, language, architecture, scripting, full stack exposure, and specific expertise. This is a very important, very good slide which covers your journey to coming. And the most important thing is once you come also, you have to keep learning. These are and this is, we are coming to the last part of the session. These are the 7 slides, 7 sessions that I covered, and everything involves learning, and that's why learning I kept it end. You have to learn technology, you have to learn management, you have to learn communication, positive intention, emotional intelligence, soft skills, and your personal use. These are the 7 areas which you should focus, and for all the focus you need your learning skills. So that's the trick of the learning part of it. The key rule: 10% of your time need to be spent on learning, 10% of time testing what you have learned. This is the most important rule. Should be, if you don't take away anything from today, just take this point. And then this is the question which keeps you learning. When was the last time you did something for the first time? Keep asking. Keep asking this question. I started talking when Kriti offered me this. I was not doing it in a very, I used to talk to people in a direct forum, never on online. But when I started it, it was when I started asking this question. When was the last time you did something for the first time? Keep asking this question to you. It can be anything. It can be anything. It can be driving a car. It can be to a trek. It can be anything. It can be learning Java. It can be learning, say, a data skill. Whenever. When was the last time you did something for the first time? You keep asking this question, you will be pushed to the learning journey and pushed to the success. This is where I would like to close the slides. We'll open for the questions, Naveen. And thanks for the opportunity, Kriti and Naveen. And let's open for questions. And then if there are no questions, we will take some more points.
Yes, Dr. Ashwin, there's just only one question so far, which is, can you give us the link for the previous sessions, sir? Yes, Niveda, we are actually having a separate YouTube channel as well. So we will create a playlist with all the 8 sessions. So if you want, you can watch one session after the other. Okay, we will arrange the playlist in YouTube and we will make sure we forward it to everyone who has attended the session. Even if you have attended any one of the 8 sessions, we will make sure that it will be sent to you. And you can post the questions with respect to learning skills. I mean, on today's session, through the Q&A, only those questions which are relevant, we will publish it. Okay, so only with the questions which are relevant, or at least which is related to any of the sessions, we will publish it. Avoid asking questions with respect to your CTC or interview opportunities. Okay, you can post your questions. If possible, kindly mention your college name as well.
So as the questions come up,
Yeah.
I'll keep talking and correct, just
Please.
disrupt.
Yeah.
Naveen. So in terms of what I talked to you, on this slide, let me go to the, I keep it here. And why I'm harping about it is, I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, a lot of people. The successful people follow this. And in fact, they follow more, 15, 20%. It's a very, very conservative number which I'm putting here. And if somebody can take this into any aspect of, into any industry, they'll be successful. So in terms of another aspect which I want to leave you is, look at this from a technical roadmap. Look at where you are. Okay, and I know some of you have already got a job, some of you have not, some of whatever it is. Right? Look at where you are and follow this path. If you want to get into IT, this is the best path that you can follow. Your fundamentals, your language, your architecture, your scripting, your full stack exposure and expertise. So what has happened is, if you when we joined IT, people were able to give us at least 1 year before getting productive. Because and first of all, when I joined IT, I first talked to a customer after maybe 2.5, 3 years. Nowadays, when people join IT companies, they will start talking to the customer within a month or maybe before that, because of the agile process. Agile process needs everybody to be visible to the customer. So that's where your communication, your technology, you can't learn technology after coming. You have to learn technology before joining. So that's where this becomes important for you in a skilling journey. I mean, is there any questions, or I can talk a couple of minutes and then we can close?
You can talk a couple of minutes. We have started getting questions. Shall I read them out?
Yeah, read it.
How can I develop my critical thinking?
Very good question. Very good question. So in terms of critical thinking, right? Take a problem statement. Take a problem statement and look at different ways of doing it. Any problem statement. Even that's where mathematical problems become a good start point, right? You take any problem statement, actually write down different things, and then way which is nice, do it in two different ways completely, and look at what is better than that, and then that gives you chance to develop your critical thinking part. And talk to a coach. When I say coach, anybody, it can be your family, it can be your professor, it can be somebody you join in a company. Learn that art of critical thinking, because that leads you, and having a choice. If you choose one and just go about doing it, you'll only learn that. You can't think another view. That's where even projects, right, have to take, even if you choose an architecture for a project, people have to look at alternatives. Actually, they have to present an alternative and why they didn't choose that alternative. So that critical thinking helps you. And also putting yourself into failure situations, in the sense, be very confident of failing, because if you don't fail, you can never learn. So that's where there is a concept of fail early. We say that in the latest design methodologies, or fail early, because if you fail early, it's not very expensive, and you learn fast. So you fail early, learn fast. That's where you develop critical thinking. So two aspects: have choices, and this is what I would say different people have different aspects to it. Two things if I want me to suggest: one is, take two choices, do it in two ways, and you yourself be the judge which would have been better. So that's one way. The second one way, in terms of, for developing critical thinking, think about, talk to a coach and start and get inputs that will help in critical thinking. Next question.
Thanks, Dr. Next one is, Sir, can you please suggest any technology or courses that one should have at present to excel in the IT industry?
So this is where this slide, right? So courses, I would say, see, if you need to come to IT, you need to be having two languages that you have to know, Python or Java, and it is not superficially that you know. Because when I joined company, I did not know that. I attended some C++ class. I did some Jingbang with it, but never, I couldn't know. I was maybe 1 on 10 or 2 on 10. You need to be 6 on 10, 7 on 10 on two languages. So that is very important. Then get exposed to full stack. Two courses which you have to do. One, you get exposed to full stack, get exposed to two languages, then fundamentals and architecture and all that will come. Then you can choose based on your what to say interest, whether you want to become a full stack engineer, you want to become an AI/ML, DevOps, data scientist, you can choose. If you ask me, two languages must, and get on to full stack exposure, where you get exposed to different parts, the front end, back end, middle layer, the plumbing units, all that will come. So that is the suggestions for me.
Okay. The next question is kind of specific. Like they want to know how they can prepare for Angular JS. I mean, what is the best way to prepare for Angular JS? Because none of the university syllabus are having Angular JS.
See, there is and there is no. See, you can join couple of these. The course materials are there. Even I think Pluralsight or Coursera or Udemy has Angular JS. But more importantly, start developing code. Write code as and when, and there are different courses which different vendors of give. I think every vendor has their unique what to say proposition. Choose what works for you, cost, what works for you, timelines, what works for you. A lot of people who give courses. Most importantly, learn the concept of scripting, concept of front end. Because today it is Angular, tomorrow it will be React, or already it is React, or tomorrow it will be something. So you have to know the fundamentals of scripting, fundamentals of the front end technology. If you know the blocks, then it's a very easy to, I won't say easy, it will be easy for you to learn something else also. So do some online courses, join a course which gives you exposure to Angular, Angular JS in a big way, and most importantly, to learn any skill, start coding. Develop. Take a real-time scenario, take a project, choose courses which give you real-time coding experience rather than only theory. Don't cut and paste code. Another thing, I've tell the what you should do, what you should not do. Don't cut and paste code when you are a fresher. The worst mistake that you can do as a fresher is cutting paste code, because that's where you don't learn code. Even if it is wrong, write code, develop it, make mistakes, learn how to debug it, and then get more on. That's not only true for Angular, it's true for learning anything else also.
Oh, thank you, Ashwin. The next one is it the right time to upskill in cloud, or I mean, is this the right time to upskill in cloud? Is the question.
If you know the fundamental, I'd say if you know if you know two languages, if you know you are exposed to full stack, you are then it is not a bad idea because cloud is there for to stay. Okay, people have stopped talking whether they have to move to cloud or not move to cloud. It is about when they move, what they move, right, and how they move. It is not why and all. The why is answered. People will move to cloud, and are have already moved or are moving to cloud. So you have to know it's a good one, but don't make the mistake of directly jumping into cloud technology without understanding the basics of languages, getting exposed to full stack. Don't get into cloud, because what happens is you become super connected to that one tool or one area, and if that goes, you will be no one. So most importantly, learn two languages, get exposed to full stack, and then get on to cloud or a data or anything that you want. AI/ML.
Okay. Actually, the next two questions, they are similar, so I'm going to mix both of them. One is from Anonymous and another one is from Rahul. So the question is, the first question is, how do we motivate ourselves when we try to learn a new technology because it is difficult to us? The second question is, I have been trying to learn technology online for the past 1.5 years, but I'm struggling to keep up with it. Does this mean I am not, does this mean this is not my domain, or should I learn it personally from someone? What should I do?
Very good question, very frank question. See, for some people, online learning helps. For some people, mentorship helps. And nothing is good or bad. You have to, let me answer it in two ways. When you start developing and seeing output, you will get motivated. For example, you want to learn Angular, you develop a screen and make it work for yourself. It gives you a lot of confidence to learn new stuff. So first, start developing, and then when you're attending online, are you attending in a structured way? And if your online is not working, take to a coach, take to a mentorship run program, which is a that's why I always like programs which are both online and session based. The session should lead to the online content and to the lab. Only then it's a good session, according to me. So choose yours. It is definitely not that you are not good at it. You have not put in the right effort. What to say? I won't say right effort. I would say the correct effort. So fundamentally, start coding from day one. Any course which says that you have to code after 3 months, you are not going to learn. You have to start coding from day one or day 2, day 3. That's where it is. You have to start coding. Then start seeing the output. Start seeing the output. In fact, if you make mistakes and correct the mistakes and get that output comes, that gives you much more. And I still remember at 25 years, different code situations or debugging situations I have solved. I still remember because it gives you utmost confidence of debugging and solving a problem. So get real. Put each one of you have joined should have a GitHub repository. Put all your code in GitHub. See your code. That's your art. The code that you write is your art. Like an artist saves his paintings, you have to save your code. That's how important that you have to give to coding. So I would say choose something which has mentorship also, where there is people who can guide you, and also get into coding and seeing output. That will motivate. And also choose what you have chosen. If you have chosen, say, an AIML or a cloud, or without knowing the language, because if they want to write something in those stuff, or Python, I'm just using Java because I know it, but even Python is good enough. If you do not know the language, if you're chosen something which is advanced without you having the basics, that's a very pitfall that you'll stop learning because you lose confidence.
Thanks, Dr. Ashwin, because most of the questions were aligned towards that, about how we are going to learn. And there's one question about evaluation. How will we know that we have achieved certain knowledge in a particular technology? How do we evaluate ourselves to work in projects?
It's a good question. Seeing output, as I told you, right, the more complicated POCs that you do, when I say proof of concept that you do, the more projects that you do, the more. And I always say the future of everybody, right, in future, you will not have your resume, you will have your code that you have written. So that's where, if you start writing code and seeing the output, that itself is an evaluation. First, and then give it to somebody to play around and see how good they are, how well tested your code is. That gives you more evaluation. Also, now there are tools which can evaluate your code, how good your code is. There are code evaluators. You can online, it's freely available also. Search for code evaluators and then write how well is your code written, and have a peer review. In the sense, your code getting reviewed by your colleagues, their code you are reviewing, or you can give it to your seniors, and when most of you, if you are getting jobs, you will get into internships. Use the people in internships to review your code, get feedback. That's where you learn, and that's where you know how good are you progressing. Output, feedback, and there are some code evaluators that you can use. So these are the three concepts which I can suggest.
Thanks, Dr. Ashwin. Those are all the questions that we had till now.
Thanks. This is where before I close, I will close with this. 10% of your time need to be spent on learning. 10% of time testing what you have learned, and keep asking this question. When was the last time you did something for the first time? Keep it. If you want, you can write it and keep it in your home or your room. This will keep you going. And this is how I close. Wishing you most and more in this journey of getting qualified, being employable, and everything else in life. Thanks, Kriti, and thanks, Naveen. So what we will do is, this is the last session of the 8 weeks. I will work with Kriti. I'm also trying to plan one session which will summarize all these 8 sessions. Maybe we will plan that. I will work with Kriti, and we will also post. Actually, these are 8 series, employability, 8 session employability series. And there was a first session which I took on skills and traits for the future. We will combine all this into a package, share it on social media, give it to all the people who attended, and we'll take out from there. Thanks, folks. Thanks, Kriti. Thanks, Naveen, and thanks one and all for this opportunity. And wish you all most and more.
Thanks, Dr. Ashwin, for enlightening the students with consistently, for that matter, with 8 different sessions. And students, as we informed during the session as well, we will create a YouTube channel with all those 8 sessions and all other sessions that Vachisa has done. We'll create a playlist, and the link will be sent to each and every one of you who have attended the sessions. Okay, even if you have attended one session, you will still get the link to access the different videos which are available. If you still have any queries that you could not ask during the session, you can still write into us and we will respond to you. With respect to the sessions, not the questions with CTC or the training programs, once again, we will address that separately. Okay, so once again, I thank each and every one of you who have joined for this section, and thanks, Dr. Ashwin, for enlightening the students.
Thank you. Thanks, Kriti. Thanks, Naveen. Thanks.
Thanks, boss.